Welcome to RSAC Conference 2025. We're here recording live from the Semperis TV studio and broadcast alley at Moscone West. I'm your host, Adrian Sanabria, and joining me for this interview is Marty Momdjian?
Yes, sir.
Momdjian. And you are the EVP of Services for Ready1.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about what Ready1 is. And Ready1 is a new brand for Semperis.
New platform that is being released this week at RSA.
Excellent. So welcome to the conversation here. I'm very excited to hear about this. I haven't had a lot of time to look into it, so all my questions are going to be genuine here. And first of all, why a separate name? Why a separate domain name for this? That big an offering, or it's that different from the other stuff that Semperis is currently doing?
It's pretty in tune with what Semperis is doing as a whole, where Semperis' main focus has always been the ITDR and pure identity security space when it comes to security controls, detection, recovery for Active Directory and identity. From there, we just had a pretty long history of incident response on the identity space and discovered a pretty big gap really in the cyber response and crisis response side of the house, right? And Ready1 is essentially a full brand under the Semperis umbrella, full platform with the ties, of course, into the incident response side of Semperis and identity. The main focus for us really on the Ready1 side is the incident response and true crisis response for organizations.
Yeah, so that's the original story why FireEye said that they acquired Mandiant, is their customers would come to them and just said, okay, we found something, now what? What are you going to do for us? And they're like, now you have to respond. You have to, it's your problem now, and made sense to be able to say, oh, well, we have incident response services, right?
Yeah, ours really led from my background, Mickey, the Semperis team. Over the years, we did a lot of incident response, true incident response that started as an event, an incident, and then growing into a crisis. And there was always the gap of most organizations have the people, right? They have the people. They have a lot of the processes in place. They just might be outdated.
Yeah.
And technology is so reliant on Active Directory. I laugh because we're an AD security company, right?
Right.
Best in the world when it comes to Active Directory security. We built the platform so it's not integrated with Active Directory, and a lot of customers ask us why. It's like, well, the reliance is so heavy on Active Directory. We built the resilience response platform for it to not truly be integrated and be out of band because of our experience around doing crisis response and incident response. And the gap is always a lot of the communication, right? The technology people know what to do. Incident responders know what to do. The organization just needs to be able to communicate. They need to be able to document what they're doing. They need to be in a constant prepared state nowadays. So we decided let's build a true platform to enable them to do that.
Yeah. So help me understand how much of this platform is designed to be used left of boom versus right of boom. Is this a case management tool? Is it? Are you testing detections and things like that? What are you doing within the platform?
So a little bit of all of the above. The mission of the platform itself, if you look at it, is to streamline crisis response. And a lot of organizations stay left of boom. They do their tabletop exercises, their preparedness, they get their documentation in order, they work with their partners and vendors. And then it's a lot of, I don't want to say sit around and wait, but an event occurs that turns into a crisis eventually, right? And then there's the response side, right, of boom. You have to coordinate all the people, hope your documentation is up to date. And when you respond, log all the activities, do all the forensics, right? There's a lot of point solutions for those. So our mission was, let's take all those point solutions and consolidate to a true enterprise platform for organizations and companies and businesses to operate out of. So when they are left of boom, they're always in a constant prepared state.
Yeah.
And it's not built just for IT and cyber. We built it for the entire organization, so every end user has access. The consumers of technology have access, the board, the cybersecurity team, the crisis team. So they're self-managing their preparedness. And then when an incident does occur, the organization responds within the single platform. So they're communicating on the same channels in a secure way. They're logging their activities across the enterprise in the same exact platform. So to them, it becomes business as usual when they go right of boom, right? And then afterwards, the after action report that thing people don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right? It's the complex, what really happened, when, how, who did it. Let's enable them to do it in the platform as an organization and enterprise, led by the crisis and cyber team and legal and GRC and everybody else that's involved. So it's housed within the platform itself, and we can streamline it end to end. And then when the event is done, go back left of Bang, right?
Yeah.
Go back to what gaps did we find? What is Ready1 telling us? Let's improve before the next one occurs.
Yeah, so we've already been talking this week. Is that an opportunity to use AI to come up with those lessons learned, to analyze all the stuff that has been put into this platform? Summarization is something that it does pretty well.
One of the biggest use cases that we're tackling
Yeah.
is the proper use of AI, right?
Right.
AI is thrown around so much. We're really looking at it as, what are we going to do with AI with all the data that we are consuming
Yeah.
from all of the customers that are on the platform right now? And can we truly have a couple of, I don't want to say simple use cases, but very targeted use cases? Can we take AI and summarize thousands of log entries and then create a one-pager for the executive persona and the stakeholder of,
Right.
here's what occurred in the incident? Can we also take that same AI process to summarize it for the technical people, right? We're also exploring, in a future state, what do we do with all this incident data to have AI summarize, de-identify all this information, and then share it back out with the community. So there's a community aspect that is truly de-identified by AI that can share the wealth of knowledge that's in the platform for the community itself.
Yeah, and it's interesting you're talking about having all the stakeholders in there, but one of the things I often hear, about being important is for an incident response system like this to be out of band somewhat as well. Like you don't want it to be, you don't want an easy path for an attacker to get into your incident response notes. So, how do you deal with that?
So we built this platform from the ground up to be truly out of band, single source.
Okay.
So when you look at the platform itself, 100% browser based and a mobile application.
Oh, nice.
Everything that we've built
So convenient to use also.
Yeah, and it's targeted towards the usability in the UI for the non-cybersecurity person, because everybody else is also involved in managing the incident.
Right.
If you're leading cyber and I'm leading a business operations side of the house, I still need to continue operating as a business.
Yeah.
My users, my consumers, my workforce needs to go somewhere for their documentation.
Yeah.
If I throw a cyber solution at them, they're not going to figure it out because they're finance people.
I don't want to train general counsel on.
Yeah, I don't want to
using-
train. Yeah, they're legal. Their job is to be legal. Their job is to
Right.
protect the organization and us. Their job is not to be cybersecurity experts, right?
Yeah.
So we actually truly did build it from the ground up. So everything is built in-house. We're limiting third-party services and integrations because of third-party risk.
Yeah.
So things like the communication bridges, the legal redaction, the privilege actions, the documentation storage, the incident management side and the frameworks, it's
Right.
all built in-house on the platform, and we have full dev control over it.
So putting all these pieces together, did you find like and maybe this is one of the reasons that you decided to build it, what are some of the bottlenecks you found you were able to remove in this process where otherwise a lot of companies would get hung up, or maybe information doesn't get centralized in the right places and communication becomes disjointed?
We want to make it intuitive, which was one of our biggest goals. It's always our driving kind of pillars behind this is make it secure as possible, reduce third-party risk, and then make it easy for the workforce. Make it easy for the non-cybersecurity and non-crisis folks that are using the platform. And our driver behind that was as simple as make the UI easy to consume and make it intuitive, because the biggest problem a lot of organizations face, my previous life as a CISO at a $60 billion conglomerate, was always, I have all these great plans. Nobody updates anything unless my audit folks and legal show up and they're like, you got a month, you got to update everything, audit's coming, right?
Yeah.
But let's make it so it's easy to consume for the workforce. So they go in, they update their own documentation, their own processes, they self-manage it, and remove the bottleneck of having to force it on to different teams and people, and enable them to actually go in and build what they need to be resilient to support cybersecurity and crisis.
And so a few questions. Did I hear it correct in that does this do any actual testing of detections or anything, or is it more of just the management platform where
it's more the
humans
management
are putting notes and things like
It's
that?
the management platform. What we're looking at the testing side of it is we're after figuring out working with partners and customers, the true resilience score. Resilience is the big buzzword for the year, right?
It
I ask most organizations, have you defined resilience and then cyber resilience?
Yeah.
Resilience is people, process, technology, incident response, having my house in order, keeping it always up to date is not easy. What we're trying to figure out and working towards figuring out is what is a true resilience score that we can assign, pulling information in from MITRE, the ISACs, following what CISA and NIST recommend, following what partners recommend, right, in the industry, and saying, let's actually, instead of doing vulnerability scanning, pulling in threat feeds, let's take the systems, the processes, the assets a customer has in the platform. Do they have a response plan attached to that asset? Are the people defined? Is the documentation up to date? And the platform's purpose is to make sure the people do keep the processes up to date. If that piece of infrastructure system service becomes unavailable, but also have the people attached with the right notification at the right time that will alert them, upstream to do incident response, downstream to the impacted parties at the same exact time, and that's the automation that we're introducing. We want to go a step further and start integrating with third parties to make sure the systems are backed up. Right now we have the documentation, the people, the backup, recovery capabilities for it.
Yeah, so and preparedness.
Then, and the true resilience and preparedness score. So if something does go out of whack, at the end of the day, the score drops, the stakeholders get a notification, the workforce gets a notification, and it's their purpose to make sure it's back up to date and in good standing within the platform.
Yeah. And it seems to me a lot of resilience is knowing ahead of time what's going to happen with your systems. So is this something that's going to encourage tabletops? The kinds of activities that you would want to do. Because an incident can be a very emotional time. And how you respond in those situations. If you're expecting it, if you've already gone through these steps, if you already know how to use your tools to find things. Is this something that can encourage some of that activity?
That's what we're going for. Yeah. I've done a lot of incident response as an incident responder, incident commander, breach coach.
Yeah.
All,
Same. Yeah. I
all
was
eyes are
chief,
on
chief
us.
incident handler for 5 years of my career.
Yeah. There you go. What's the biggest issue we run into, right? It's always communications, and all eyes are on cybersecurity.
Yeah.
My take on it was leave the incident response team alone. They know what they're doing, right? Yeah. But let's enable everybody else to see what they have to and how they are impacted within the platform to remove the stress from the cybersecurity and the crisis team and the incident handlers and the incident responders. So they have their personas, their dashboards, their tools, and their access in a single platform. But for everybody else, access to their platform based off their persona, so they can go into Ready1 and see how are they impacted and bridge that communication gap between the business, the cybersecurity team, the crisis team, and anybody else that needs to be aware, and remove the stress for them, right? Because what happens in an incident, things go south, everybody turns into looking at cyber because cyber is good at process. IR is good at process. That's what their responders do.
Yeah.
Let's elevate them a little bit and honestly create a firewall between the cyber and the crisis and legal team so they can do their work and give everybody else in the organization the ability to access what they need to continue operating without their infrastructure and their technology running.
And it doesn't seem like it's a very high bar to clear, but I imagine maybe SecOps, the IR CERT teams are the buyers here, the ones that are going to be building up and managing the platform. Though you said, once you get it up and running, people manage their own stuff. You give them access to the platform. But I imagine your main competitor here is going to be Google Docs. So
funny enough, it is.
Yeah. So you've got to be. I mean, it's not hard to be better than Google Docs from a feature standpoint, but it's hard to be better than Google Docs in the amount of time it takes to get it going. Google Docs template, 10 seconds, I'm already putting information into it, right?
We're tackling the problem of data leakage there, right? I look at it as if you don't give the workforce...
That Google Docs is always going to be on a platform that's potentially already compromised.
Exactly. Yeah. And identity management, right? If you roll out Ready1 to 30,000, 50,000 users, they download the mobile application, secure enclaves enabled, we push passwordless to the end user, they don't have to remember a second password. Google Docs, you're not going to manage another 40,000 identities unless you integrate with Active Directory in your IDP. Let's remove that barrier and that friction.
Right.
2, if you go out of band, most organizations implement Google Docs on top of Office 365.
Yeah.
Then they go buy Zoom on top of Teams, right? And I got to do my incident logging somewhere. I'm going to do it in spreadsheets. Let's remove out all that and single source it. Our secret sauce really is the tabletop side of the house.
Yeah.
It generally takes months to set up a tabletop, go through
Right.
scenarios. There's some great technologies out there for simulations.
You got to be creative.
Yeah. And how do I get an enterprise-wide tabletop? It doesn't happen. We focus on cyber. We find all the gaps. It takes us months to do an after-action report. We've reduced that time with 30-minute deployment of Ready1. Set up your incident response team, stand up a scribe log. We include the bridges, the escalation paths inside of it, and you can do a tabletop within 7 business days with cyber, the risk team, the stakeholders, the crisis team. And the after-action report that takes months to produce is minutes inside of Ready1.
Nice.
So, and that's one of the ways that we're tackling it with true segmented AI that is instance-based per customer base, is let's generate that, and then let's make it something that's consumable for the non-cybersecurity person so we can track the gaps within Ready1, and then do tabletop again the next quarter.
Yeah, because some of that cyber resilience is up here. It's people being prepared for, okay, here's how it's going to go down, here's the steps, here's what we go through.
How do I take that knowledge out of, I say this a lot, right? Most companies nowadays are technology companies that happen to provide another service. I come from healthcare. We were technology companies that are good at taking care of patients.
Right.
The airlines are technology companies that are amazing at scheduling, and they happen to own a bunch of airplanes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Manufacturing is like IT companies that are good at manufacturing products and robotics.
Yeah.
Right. So, and there's resellers, big Fortune 50 companies. There's supply chain companies that are good at technology that also happen to do supply chain to get goods to a consumer.
Yeah, logistics. Yeah.
Let's take all that knowledge in their head, have them put it into Ready1, so when an incident happens, they don't have to think about where to go, where to find it, how to continue operating. They log in, and what they need is right in front of them to trigger their response actions and say, oh yes, here's my forensic logging, my actions, my runbooks and playbooks in a single spot for IR.
Yeah.
To the workforce, it's here's how I do payroll when my payroll system is offline. Because they practice it in the tabletop and they self-managed it.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you
Awesome.
so much for joining me today, Marty.
Yeah, thank you
Enjoyed
for
the
having me.
conversation.
It was awesome.
Legitimately excited about the product.
Yeah, definitely, and come by the booth. So
Yeah. I'm going to carve out some expo time.
awesome.
Yeah. All right. To find out more about Semperis and Ready1, you can visit securityweekly.com/Semperis RSAC. For all RSAC 2025 coverage by Cyber Risk Alliance, please visit securityweekly.com/RSAC. Thanks again, Marty, for joining me, and stick around. We'll be back after the break with more interviews live from RSAC Conference 2025.